Over the last few months, we've been documenting the progress of a group of intrepid explorers who are preparing to climb 6,500 metres up the world's tallest mountain to attempt to set a new world record for the highest game of rugby ever played, all in the name of charity. And with just a matter of weeks until the adventure begins, the group recently assembled for one final training weekend.
We've come up to Scotland. We're in the Highlands, just past Fort William, in a place called Onich. So the idea of the weekend is to get some cold weather training, get some good walking in. It's a really good chance to test out our equipment and the gear. We've been together now 3 or 4 times. I think the bonding has been fantastic really from the start. But when you're out there on the mountain and it's cold and wet and you start to fatigue, I think it's quite interesting to see how the group interacts with each other. And I think that's going to be really important when we're out there doing the challenge. I think on Everest, it's going to affect people at different times and to different degrees. So I think that bonding that we have now, I think it's really going to come to the forefront when we're out there doing the challenge.
His knife. His knife, say rustic labour dicht, and cut ye up with your ready slit, trenching your gutted entrails brick like on a ditch. Then
It's Burns night, which is tremendous, and there's a number of people here, I suspect, who have never been to a Burns supper. So, being the only Scot in the team, I decided that I need to give them a little taste on Burns night, and hopefully we'll give a good flavour of who Robert Burns was.
I've never celebrated Burns night, so to have it in Scotland by a guy who's highly motivated by it and enjoyed it is really good fun, I thought. He was good and his knowledge of Robbie Burns was impressive.
So we're just in the bus on our first day, attempting to go up to Ben Nevis. It's a bit of a training weekend up in Scotland. We're here on our minibus. As you can see, the weather outside is grim as grim can be. Real Scottish welcome for us. Can't see anything. So, yeah, it's going to be very wet, but good fun.
From the minute we got out of the van at the car park at the bottom of the walk, it was raining and continued to rain. It was cold near the top and steep. Obviously, it got steeper and steeper the further we went up, but some dramatic scenery and a chance to test out the gear, really, you know, sort of shaking down our equipment, just get comfortable with things, find out what works, find out what doesn't. You know, you realise the things you need when you're half at the mountain that you should have already prepared and got sorted out. So it's a good test. It's a test of the equipment, test of ourselves, and just some exercise, really.
For all training, once you can do a Scottish winter, which usually equals very wet, then it's certainly good training for most things. And apart from being very wet, it's very good for checking your layering, you know, just seeing how well you can adapt and, you know, get yourself changed, add more layers, take more layers off. And it's that trying to get things early on and trying to solve a problem before it turns into, for instance, hypothermia or something. It's obviously much more extreme in a wet condition for us, but the same extreme will happen in the cold and at altitude when they're not feeling so good. So I think it will really help them.
It's day 2 of the Scottish adventure. Today we're going up Glencoe, 6:30 in the morning. See in the background, we had nowhere to dry our kit really, so we've made a makeshift rail in front of an electric heater. So wet coat to start the day. Not the best, but got to get used to this stuff, haven't we? Well, maybe not the wet, but a bit of hardship.
The plan today was that we wanted to have a bit of a test for everybody. Not only is it important that we come up to Glencoe, up into the sort of Highlands of Scotland, to have a bit of team building, but it's also important that we get out and just experience a little bit of how we're going to manage ourselves on the mountain and deal with things like the cold and boot management, kit management, all that sort of stuff. Yesterday it was pretty wet and miserable, and that in itself was a challenge we needed to overcome, but today was about the cold, and as you can see behind, there's some decent snow up on the hills. So that was a good test for everybody.
The group dynamics are very good, especially when conditions get really rubbish. It's nice to see a bit of joking still going on.
It's a little bit harder for Robin because his little legs are going to go twice the distance today. got to be used to this though. This is surely a familiar situation. Snow White in front, one of the dwarfs following behind. No? Ho, ho, ho.
And nice to see as well that the newer members coming into the team felt part of it, and I think because the other team members are strong now together, it was really easy to welcome new people into the team and to make them accepted.
We've got to keep going over another false summit. It really isn't easy though, and it is cold. Probably the most realistic training we've done so far. I'm sure this Everest will be like this hill on steroids, but definitely enjoying ourselves today.
I think the emotions go from kind of bravado to slight scared and nervousness. And a few times I've kind of found myself lying awake at night thinking of actually what it really means. So I think excitement is still there, but it's being replaced by realisation that this is actually a big challenge, and it is definitely scary. But in some ways that's also a good part of it, because it's part of what that challenge is. It's that feeling in the pit of your stomach. You're quite unsure about what's going to happen. And I get a small glimmer of what some of these expeditionists, you know, the Chris Boningtons and the Ranulph Fiennes and all those, just a tiny, tiny feeling of what maybe they've experienced of something that you're really not sure what's going to happen. And it's into that kind of unknown. And I guess that's what makes you feel a bit alive, doesn't it? You know, that trepidation.